Professor Elie Wiesel says in his book Souls on Fire, there are countless legends concerning the life he, that is the Baal Shem Tov, led before his revelation. Some say that he saved schoolboys from werewolves and warlocks, others that he could bring mountains together. Now, is this not reminiscent of statements that Jesus made, or at least what's recorded of him? He says in Matthew 18, verse 6, everyone who commits an offense against one of these little ones, it were preferable that a millstone would be hung around his neck, that he be sunk into the depths of the sea. And again, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you, according to Matthew 17, verse 20. Now we find that Jesus here is defending the little ones in Matthew 18, which is similar to the Baal Shem Tov saving the schoolboys. And in Matthew 17, he's saying that you can move mountains with your faith, which is very similar to what Elie Wiesel says about the Baal Shem Tov, that he could, quote, bring mountains together. If the legends of the Baal Shem Tov have any merit to them, and if Jesus' reported words are to be taken seriously, we can reasonably conclude that the Baal Shem Tov had great faith. And sincere, simple faith was a hallmark of the Hasidic movement he founded, or revived. Based on apocryphal legends about Jesus, he too was leading a miraculous life before his revelation to Jewish society. However, these would pale in comparison to the lives these men would lead in the coming years. We find at the time of the Tzaddik's revelation to the world, supernatural phenomenon occurred. And after the clock struck that fateful hour, that chosen minute, the moment which declared it's time to each Tzaddik, Jesus emerged from his immersion, filled with Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, and was immediately honored by the Baskol, the heavenly voice. The Baal Shem Tov became immersed with holy light and fire. In the Gospels of Matthew and of the Ebionites, we read in Matthew chapter 3, then came Jesus from Galilee to the Jordan unto John to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of you, and you come to me? And Jesus answered him, saying, suffer it to be so for now, for thus it becomes us to fulfill all righteousness. And then he allowed him. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went straightway out into the water, and the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lighting upon him. And behold, a voice from heaven saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And in the Gospel of the Ebionites we read, after the people were baptized, Jesus also came and was baptized by John. And as he came up from the water, the heavens were opened, and he saw the Holy Spirit in the likeness of a dove that descended and entered into him. And a voice from heaven saying, you are my beloved Son, in you I am well pleased. And again, this day I have begotten you. And straightway there shone about the place a great light. Related passages from the Gospel of Matthew and the book of Revelation read, specifically Matthew 17, and after 6 days Jesus took Peter, James, and John his brother, and brought them into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. In Revelation chapters 1 and 19, we also read, his eyes were as flame of fire. There's even a legend about the young John the Baptizer and his mother escaping the clutches of Herod and taking refuge in a mountain, which are reminiscent of these things as well. In the Proto-Evangelium of James 22, we read the following. And when Herod knew that he had been mocked by the Magi, or the Magi, in a rage he sent murderers, saying to them, slay the children from 2 years old and under. And Elisheva, having heard that they were searching for John, took him and went up into the hill country, and kept looking where to conceal him. There was no place of concealment, and Elisheva groaned with a loud voice, saying, O mountain of God, receive mother and child. And immediately the mountain was cleft, or torn in two, and it received her. And a light shone about them, for an angel of the Lord was with them, watching over them. Now this is very similar to things that we see in other stories in Jewish literature, but particularly as it pertains to the Baal Shem Tov. One legend about the Baal Shem Tov says, according again to Professor Elie Wiesel. On that particular Saturday, a pupil of Reb Gershon interrupted a journey to spend Shabbat with Israel, that is, Reb Israel Baal Shem Tov, and Hannah. It was midnight when he awoke, trembling with fright. A huge flame was rising from the hearth. Thinking to prevent a fire, he ran to extinguish it. When instead he saw his host flooded in light, he fainted. As he regained consciousness, he heard the Baal Shem scolding him, "One does not look where one should not." After Shabbat, the traveler hurried back to Brody, where he stormed into the house of study, shouting the good news. There's a new source of light close by. When the men rushed to the edge of the forest and there built a throne with branches and leaves, the Besht, the Baal Shem Tov, took his seat. "I shall open a new way," he declared. He was 36. So we find then that when these great tzaddikim were glorified as a sort of inauguration of their destinies, they become quite literally enlightened. When Jesus is immersed in the Jordan River, he purifies himself of sin and reaches a new spiritual level. He thus receives the Holy Spirit and is greeted by a heavenly voice, and the area around him shines with light. Is it possible that the light shining was not a light beam from heaven, but was light that was shining from Jesus himself? We find 3 other times in the New Testament where Jesus shines. Once on the so-called Mount of Transfiguration, and twice in the book of Revelation as the glorified heavenly Messiah, as he is depicted. In these latter 2 instances, Jesus is plainly related to fire. For example, the sun and a flame of fire. Likewise, the Baal Shem Tov underwent a similar experience in that midnight room. He became a human candle that enlightened the whole house. In Proverbs 13, verse 9, we read, "The light of the righteous shines brightly, but the lamp of the wicked goes out." Parents of Rabbi Israel, Baal Shem Tov, believed that, quote, their son was to be a symbol of promise and consolation, a guiding light to a people in distress. This is extremely similar to what the New Testament says about Jesus himself as well. In Matthew chapter 4, we read, "Now when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into the Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, by Zebulun and Naphtali, and that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, the people which sat in darkness saw a great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light has sprung up." A chassid of 30. A simple correlation between Jesus and the Baal Shem Tov is the similarity in age between the 2 men. The Baal Shem Tov was 36 when God revealed him to the world. And likewise, according to Luke 3:23, says Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, just like the Besht. Another parallel between these 2 descendants of King David was that David himself was also about this age. In 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 4 through 5, we read, "David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years, and in Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 30 years over all Israel and Judah." God is involved in even the most minute details of life. Both Jesus and the Baal Shem Tov believed and taught that God was personally involved in even the minutest details of his management and operation of the universe, taking notice of small birds, individual human hairs, and crisp tree leaves. In Matthew 10, verses 29 through 31, we read, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin? And not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will? But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Do not fear, therefore. You are of more value than many sparrows." And again, according to Professor Elie Wiesel, the Baal Shem Tov is reported to have said, "God sees, God watches. He is in every life and everything. The world hinges on his will. It is he who decides how many times the leaf will turn in the dust before the wind blows it away." Jesus says that God's eyes are even on the sparrow, the tiniest little birds. Certainly, he pays attention to human beings. There is a Kal Vachomer argument being made here. If God cares about the little stuff, certainly he cares about the bigger stuff too. If God gives attention to leaves and birds, then certainly humans. Additionally, Jesus says that nothing happens, quote, apart from your Father's will, while the Besht remarks that the world hinges on his will. The Tzaddik and his fatigued disciples. Not only do Jesus and the Baal Shem Tov have much in common personally, but they also have suffered similarly from their disciples. While it's certainly difficult to be a tzaddik, it can also be challenging to be the student of a tzaddik. After one particular Passover Seder, Jesus and a few of his disciples go to pray. In Matthew 26, verses 38 through 44, we read, Then said he unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry with me here, and watch with me. And he went a little farther, and fell on his face, and prayed. And he came unto the disciples, and found them asleep, and said to Peter, What, could you not have watched with me for an hour? Watch and pray that you would not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And he went away again the second time, and prayed. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them, and went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Now, many centuries later, the Baal Shem Tov experienced a very similar abandonment by his disciples during prayer. Again, according to Professor Elie Wiesel in his book, Souls on Fire. One morning, he, the Baal Shem Tov, prayed longer than usual. Weary, the disciples left. Later, the master commented, sadly, Imagine a rare bird at the top of a tree. To reach it, men form a human ladder, thus allowing one of them to climb up to the very top. But those at the bottom cannot see the bird and therefore lose patience and go home. The ladder falls apart, and up there the rare bird has flown away. The rare bird refers to the Shekhinah, or the Holy Spirit of prophecy.